Starting February 15th, the former president will have his first rival for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination. It's his one-time UN ambassador and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, according to a source familiar with her plans. The invitations have already gone out, and the questions have already begun about how she plans to set herself apart from the man she once criticized, then worked for, then broke with. More on her evolution from CNN's Kylie Atwood.
We need to go in a new direction. And can I be that leader? Yes, I think I can be that leader.
Nikki Haley clearly hinting that she was ready to launch her presidential campaign in a recent interview.
I've never lost a race. I said that then. I still say that now.
The former governor of South Carolina is poised to be the first Republican to challenge Donald Trump, who launched his campaign last year. So far, freezing out others from declaring their candidacy.
We're going to win, and we're going to win very big.
Making it for now a one-on-one match between two competitive politicians whose relationship has had many twists and turns.
It's been an honor of a lifetime.
That was in the Oval Office in 2019. Haley was stepping down after serving for nearly 2 years as Trump's ambassador to the United Nations. But during the run-up to his 2016 campaign, she was an outspoken critic.
It can be tempting to follow the siren call of the angriest voices. We must resist that temptation.
Haley was especially critical of Trump's proposal to put a temporary ban on Muslims entering the U.S.
It defies everything this country was based on, and it's just wrong.
And she ultimately chose to endorse Marco Rubio in the primary.
I wanted somebody that had conviction to do the right thing.
But when Trump became the nominee, Haley's tune shifted.
The best person based on the policies and dealing with things like Obamacare still is Donald Trump. That doesn't mean it's an easy vote. I did vote for him, and I was absolutely thrilled to see him win.
Get excited, because I am just giddy.
Her deft political skills were on display when she exited before Trump's term was over, without provoking him to chastise her.
You've been fantastic. You're my friend.
Haley shied away from rebuking Trump when he refused to concede the 2020 election. But eventually she criticized him after January 6, telling Politico, quote, "We need to acknowledge he let us down. He went down a path he shouldn't have, and we shouldn't have followed him, and we shouldn't have listened to him, and we can't let that ever happen again." Then she appeared to try to repair any rift after the Republican Party signaled that January 6 wasn't going to be the political end of Trump.
I would not run if President Trump ran. And I would talk to him about it. That's something that we'll have a conversation about at some point if that decision is something that has to be made.
And Trump says she has now made that call.
But I said, look, go by your heart if you want to run.
Kylie Atwood joins us now. What's the strategy behind the timing of her announcement? Is there a reason this month?
Yeah, well, when you talk to Republican operatives, they say this is her opportunity for a moment in the spotlight, Anderson. Obviously, she's going to be sharing that moment in the spotlight with former President Trump, but it's going to give her an opportunity to get some sustained and focused attention from the media. We're doing stories on her right now, and of course from voters who are paying attention this far out. When you also talk to folks who are close to Nikki Haley, they say that it shows that she's gutsy, that she's determined, that she's not scared to challenge Trump, and she is confident in herself. But of course, there are drawbacks too. You talk to Republican operatives, some of whom plan to work for other folks who are planning to get into the race, and they say getting in this early could be detrimental because it means you are the only one who is the official punching bag for Trump, and it gives him some sustained time to develop his critiques of Nikki Haley while it's this one-on-one race as we wait to see who else hops in.
All right,
Anderson.
Kylie Atwood, appreciate it. Thank you. Caden Dawson is the former chairman of the South Carolina Republican Party. He's supporting Nikki Haley. He joins us now, as well as CNN political commentator Alyssa Farah Griffin, who served as White House communications director in the previous administration. Chairman Dawson, it's good to have you on. So the former president is already knocking Ambassador Haley, posting on social media that she's following her, quote, heart, not her honor. Not sure exactly what that means, but he's also posted an old clip of her saying she would not run if he ran again in 2024. What changed in her political calculus, do you think?
Well, you got to understand Nikki Haley. That not much scares her. She is the most underestimated political candidate you'll ever see. Yes, she has won races that nobody thought she'd win. She's been the governor of the state of South Carolina, very popular. And I don't think Donald Trump scares Nikki Haley. I think she's been right to talking about this, the next generation's time to serve. Right now, you look at Joe Biden, will be 82 years old if he's reelected. Donald Trump will be 78 years old. And there's going to be a contest for the presidency. Nikki Haley's she's prepared herself. She's ready to get in, and she's ready to take it to Joe Biden and the administration and where the country's failed us. And she's ready to give Donald Trump a contest. As to the rest of them that are get in, jump in, the water's fine. But Nikki Haley's in, and she's going to run, and I think she's going to be very successful.
Alyssa, how do you think she will fare as a candidate?
So I'm a huge Nikki Haley fan. I think she's got the qualifications. She's a formidable candidate. But she needs to not just run on a forward-looking, next-generation vision. She also needs to run directly against Donald Trump. And that's the open question, is how willing she is to directly challenge him, the by-and-large front-runner right now. Does she have the capability and the strength to do it? Yes. The verdict is still out on whether she's actually willing to. I think she's arguably the strongest candidate against him if she directly challenges him. The one caution I have, and this is my cynical political take, there's some school of thought that she's getting out early to actually ultimately run to be his vice president. I hope that's not the case. She has a record of her own to run on. She could be president tomorrow and be ready.
One of the tests of that, I suppose, would be whether she does take him on directly early on.
The next couple months will tell if that is in fact her plan or if this is truly a run for the presidency.
Chairman Dawson, what about that? I mean, do you expect her to, we played in that clip that, she did after January 6th say, he shouldn't have gone down that road. We shouldn't have followed him. We should never do it again. Do you think she will continue? And then she kind of, seemed to walk it back a little bit, saying the things she said about never running unless, if he was running. Do you think she will take on the former president directly?
I know she'll take on, and she'll be successful doing it. Nikki comes out of South Carolina, and Anderson, you've been here before. This is a rough place. It's a place that this race is going to end up in the gutter, and we're going to have some people in it. And the first one to come out and take a shower is going to be the winner, and that's probably going to be Nikki Haley. Donald Trump right now, I think, has hit his ceiling. We'll find out. He did a good small rally in South Carolina last week. I would say trying to clear the field. But this is going to be a contest. I think what Alyssa's hitting on is how many people are going to be in it. Because as you know, these primaries are the winner takes all. So 31 to 33 to 34% makes you a winner. So the question is, are we going to have a jungle primary with 16 people in it? I don't think so. And the question is who's built the infrastructure, has the financial wherewithal to take on Donald Trump? Nikki Haley is one of those. She's prepared. We're excited about it. And we're going to have a contest. The Democrats maybe won't have a contest, but boy, there's a lot going on in both parties right now about the generational shift that we see in the electoral village that we live in now, that I think people are looking for the next generation to come clean up what my generation couldn't get fixed and move us into a new place.
Well, Alyssa, Chairman Dawson raises a good point. The more people who get in, obviously good for the political debate, but it does favor the former president.
Yeah, the worst thing for the GOP would be to repeat 2016, where you've got, 16 people on stage and 2 separate debates because you can't even fit them all up there.
And the former president picks them off one by one.
One by one and cannibalizes them. And right now he solidly has about 30% in most of the polling. I think it is a show of strength if she's truly running to run against Trump to go out early. It kind of makes someone like a Mike Pompeo or a Mike Pence consider where's their lane if Nikki Haley's truly taking him on. I hope that's the case. This is a woman who is next generation. She's a female who helps where, Donald Trump lost voters last time. She's a person of color, which our party needs to make inroads back with. So she can be formidable, but time will tell.
Yeah. Alyssa Farah Griffin, thank you. Kaden Dawson, thank you. It was great having you on.